This video was produced by the Lower Rio Grande Water Quality Initiative, a pilot project to develop a binational process to collect information to help stakeholders improve water quality in the Lower Rio Grande. One of the longest rivers in North America, the Rio Grande flows nearly 2,000 miles, creating a natural border between the United States and Mexico. It provides water to millions of people, supporting life, agriculture, and industry in both nations. Despite the Rio Grande's importance to communities in both the U.S. and Mexico, the river has become increasingly polluted and less usable. For decades, the two governments have worked together to improve the river's poor water quality, but the river remains contaminated. As a part of the Lower Rio Grande Water Quality Initiative, we pose this question: can the Rio Grande serve as an illustration of progress when two nations cooperate to improve the quality of a shared resource? This video examines both the barriers and the opportunities to improve the quality of the Rio Grande from the Falcon Reservoir to the Gulf of Mexico. Contamination in the Rio Grande comes from various sources. Point sources, such as wastewater discharge, and non-point sources, such as runoff from the land during rains, contribute to the salinity and bacteria present in the river.
I guess to the layman, it's quantity. I mean, obviously, as we grow more urbanized, what they open up a faucet, whether it's in Mexico or Matamoros or in Brownsville, they want that water to be there. So it's a quantity issue. But water quality is coming more to the forefront because we've become more educated about the results or lack of water quality.
It is polluted. Over the years, I've seen an increase of chemicals that we've been needing to use now because of the state of it, how it comes into the water plant.
The situations that you have are related to pesticide use. They're related to fertilizer coming down, and that, of course, increases the bacterial load in the water itself in the Rio Grande. And then you've got other sources of pollution that come into the Rio Grande.
Most of the urban areas are not meeting the standards for contact recreation, so that can cause certain health issues, and the bacteria indicator that we use, E. coli, is not the same one that is found in hamburgers that make people sick, but it's actually an indicator of other kinds of pathogens that might be present in the river at the time. So we really want to focus on the bacteria. It can come from runoff from storm events, it can come from untreated wastewater, it can come from septic tanks that aren't maintained. So there's a number of different approaches to addressing the problem, but I would say bacteria right now is the number one.
We've had for years people that complained that you had sewage that was coming directly into the Rio Grande, just building up the bacterial count there. And of course, with the temperatures that we have, high annual temperatures, your bacteria grow very, very well. And you add that to the fertilizer, and you just get high bacterial counts. And of course, that then gives you a problem when you go into your water treatment, because you've got to add more chlorine and more treatment to kill off the bacteria, and therefore you increase your chlorinated hydrocarbons.
So a lot of those issues of water quality could be illegal discharges, and that could be from septic tank haulers, people that have runoff from their ag fields, pesticides. A lot of that gets into the watershed. So those kind of things really contribute to water quality issues, as well as a typical rain.
If you have a lot of nutrients in the river, and usually you think of nutrients in lakes or ponds or something, if you have too many nutrients, you have the eutrophication, which causes the algae blooms. So even though it's a river, you still have to maintain that balance of nutrients. We had a lot of the hyacinth, the hydrilla, So a lot of those come from the nutrient levels.
You're pumping muddy water out of the river, so all that's nothing but floating dirt. So as that dirt moves in these resacas and the flow stops, that all falls out. All that water through the years has been settling in there, and it just builds up and builds up.
Several obstacles, including financial issues, stand in the way of improving water quality. Binational cooperation is necessary to overcome these obstacles.
I've seen a lot of good things happen and a lot of good plans that have been made, but sometimes the implementation, the educational process, the enforcement, the stakeholders being all inclusive, government officials working with the citizens that actually live within the watershed, good communication tools have been lacking. I think the government does a good job on a lot of things, but we still have a long way to go.
When you're dealing with transboundary watersheds, the pollution issue becomes even much more sensitive.
Local solutions to water quality management are important. If you don't get the buy-in from local communities, then you will have a hard time implementing the transboundary water management policies that you may have agreed upon at the international level.
Locally, financing has been a big challenge for us because we've kind of been hit with a perfect storm in terms of federal and state money drying up at a time when we have major infrastructure needs in Weslaco.
So that funding has to be there first, the planning has to be there, and once that occurs, now you're able to go ask them for funding. But a lot of times it's going to be loans. Well, any city doesn't need a loan. Any city, like anything, needs free money because that burden falls back on the citizens.
Even though there's funding out there for this type of projects, the biggest issue that we have as Starr County is that Starr County is very economically deprived. In fact, something that I'm not proud of and we work hard to improve is that we are one of the poorest counties in the nation. So when these funds are made available to the public, they usually come with portions that must be matched by the entity. And for Starr County to come up with $500,000 for any grant, it is almost impossible.
If our water isn't available because of the quantity or the quality, then we're stumped. So it's a matter of sustainability. We have to go ahead and manage that resource, and we will. You know, we either pay now or pay later. It's just a matter of when, and the when will define how costly it gets. And by that time, you know, what have you lost? You're gonna have to take stock of what you've lost, whether it's certain animal species, whether you've lost irreparable damage to the river.
Climate change and increased climate variability in this basin is a challenge. That will put old agreements into question, since often they are not flexible enough to address the increased variability in terms of water flows.
They figure that by those dates, 2050, 2040, that the river will not have enough water to maintain the populations on both sides. They own half, we own half.
Maintaining the quality of water in the Rio Grande Valley, it is extremely important for the growth and the survival of the communities also.
There's only so much water that's going to come down that river, and the valley continues to grow. Long term, you're looking at managing a limited resource with continued growth.
Communities and individuals on both sides of the border are interested in binational cooperation. These communities are looking for ways to improve the water quality in the Rio Grande through updating infrastructure, increasing transboundary communication, and educating the public.
I think your biggest impact on water quality is going to be those, or putting in control measures that come from direct dischargers. In other words, these are discharges from point sources or industries, municipalities, industrial operations. if we could put treatment controls or treatment technologies on those discharges, I mean, that would definitely be a big impact on water quality.
We need infrastructure improvements on both sides of the border. We need to connect colonias in Texas and colonias in Mexico to septic systems and sewer systems. A lot of the sewer systems that have been constructed are inadequate for the population growth, and so they need to be improved and upgraded.
That water plant is the most important project for this community because it represents the future of this town. Without it, you cannot bring in 200 more homes. You can't connect a new employer that comes into town needing water. You're basically dead in the water as far as new growth.
Creating a sense of realization that we have something in common, that we have a shared good that we all feel passionate about. And we've got to get beyond the scale of just the local community, what I see outside of my front door, and extend that into the community. That, okay, I am a single property owner, I have a single home on this larger water body, whether it's a river or a lake, and maybe I need to work collectively with my neighbors so that we can achieve our goals.
Yeah, the key to any success on any projects is to end up making sure that you get the elected officials involved. You can go to the citizens, but the elected officials are extremely important because if you don't sell it to them, it's never going to end up going through. The key to anything of getting any type of funding from the federal government, getting any type of money from the state, is always planning. Long-term planning is going to end up being the key to anything.
There's been several cooperative efforts, and that's kind of key right now, is to get people from both countries to sit together and see if there's anything that can be done to take little steps towards a better Rio Grande watershed.
It really does start with making sure people understand issues and take the time to inform themselves, care about their community, because in the end, it really is their town, and it is their money.
All comes back to educating the public, making them aware. Education to me is number one.
Well, I think we all know that education doesn't start when you get to college. If you're talking about just the university, then we're going to miss a tremendous percentage of citizens in America and around the world. If we're talking about an educational system where the municipality gets involved, where the local citizens get involved, where the governmental agencies get involved, with more and more ideas to educate the public for someone that doesn't go to school. And so to educate, you're going to have the whole family, the whole team, the whole city, state, government, world working on this issue.
I feel that the Rio Grande has not been used to its fullest potential. I think a lot more recreational could be used. I think a lot more to entice winter Texans to come down and see the beauty. Now we've gotten a lot of bird watchers that come, and there's a lot of birds along the river.
I like innovative approaches where you use water hyacinths and parks and use the drain water to farm pecans and things like that. So there's some innovative ways that we could use the discharge and be smarter about how we do it.
Communities and individuals on both sides of the border are interested in binational cooperation. These communities are looking for ways to improve the water quality in the Rio Grande through updating infrastructure, increasing transboundary communication, and educating the public.
What you would like to envision would be the Rio Grande, where we can ride the little rapids and get out there and go canoeing and go birding safely. And if you fall out of the canoe, you don't have to worry about holding your nose or anything and getting bacteria, getting Naegleria or amoebiasis from the river water. But That's what you would like to see in the future, is recreational water quality.
We want to use it like our grandparents used to use it, because so that we can go out there on Sunday afternoons and have the kids play around and swim and do stuff like that. That would be the idea.
Will be the water itself coming in with a lower, and this will be the chemical characteristics of the water, which would be like the hardest being ideal below 300 at least, a pH being at what it is, 800. That way we would not be spending so much money in trying to get the water treated, you know. And also for it not to be that polluted, that would also save us in the cost for disinfecting it. You know, the ideal water would be for us to be receiving water that won't be that much polluted.
You're going to not have as many nutrients. We're going to put into place controls, probably best management practices, and those are going to go a long ways as far as trying to prevent those nutrients from getting into the river.
When coming together to resolve an issue, it is important to identify goals to which everyone can agree to. How can the stakeholders define success when it comes to improving water quality, and how will we know if the goals are being achieved?
Los modelos son una representación, digamos, generalizada de fenómenos o de procesos que ocurren en la naturaleza.
Por eso utilizamos los modelos. Esto nos permite calcular cuáles son las concentraciones de las descargas que se deben de cumplir para que en el cuerpo de agua se alcance un uso determinado.
El objetivo es hacer una simulación para ver hasta dónde los industriales o los que están descargando este cuerpo de agua pueden vertir y con qué concentración, con el efecto de no impactar negativamente este cuerpo de agua.
Partiendo de eso, allá en México está lo que son las condiciones particulares de descarga. En esas condiciones particulares se va a la empresa, bueno, después de los trámites administrativos y demás, y se le dice, sabes que tú ya no puedes descargar tanto, entonces ¿qué vas a hacer? O vas a poner plantas de tratamiento o te vamos a multar si sigues descargando esto porque el río no lo está soportando.
Un balance de masas, un balance, es un balance entre lo que traía el río, lo que recibió y lo que necesitó para recuperar la condición que traía.
In many communities on both sides of the border, there are civic organizations implementing technical and educational projects to improve water quality and make the border region a better place for all. In order to make these efforts more effective, it is worthwhile to recognize successful efforts that are currently underway.
I think during this time, even though we're in drought, there is a push to improve things. We have multiple groups that are willing to discuss looking for, not even finding solutions, just assessing what can be done.
In the last few years, there's more attention on the river and the pollution and what that means to water quality. And I think to a large extent, people have now focused on the river.
We ended up giving out flyers to the children at elementary schools, asking the citizens to support us. We got over 3,000 signatures back supporting our efforts to end up correcting our system, which was fantastic.
You have NGOs that are very focused on the water quality aspect of it. Environmental advocacy groups that are very focused on the water quality aspects of it as well. We have our Clean Rivers program and our partners that are very focused in it. So it really depends. You know, you can view it from many angles. Each one has their own concern.
It's very much a privilege to have these two agencies, the BEC and the North American Development Bank, here to serve the border. This agency has certified almost 200 environmental infrastructure projects that have resulted in the implementation of $4 billion worth of construction in such a short period of 15 years. I mean, that's unheard of for the whole U.S.-Mexico border.
Fortunately, through help from federal grants from both Mexico and the United States, we're getting more treatment plants built along the border. So that's a tremendous benefit to all of us in this area. It's a cooperative effort, and we have to foster it. And I think we've seen a lot of good benefits from that, a lot of good results, and we need to nurture that relationship.
We've always coordinated with within cities within Cameron County. We've always hosted meetings, and we gather several cities together. I mean, within Cameron County, and they help us do the outreach in their communities also.
You're bringing two cultures, two countries together. We have 6 federal agencies, Department of State and their Mexican counterpart. We've got the regulatory, we've got EPA and Semarnat, which is their counterpart. And then we have the money, which is Treasury and Hacienda. That involves a lot of bilateral cooperation from 2 countries, but also from 6 federal agency perspectives.
Considero que es muy importante y que sí podemos trabajar. Hay algunas barreras del idioma, hay algunas barreras culturales, algunas otras de conocimientos, pero yo creo que con los equipos bien integrados, con gente técnica, con gente de comunicación, con gente de enlace, podemos trabajar.
That's the challenge, is trying to take the passion that people have at that local level and build on that commitment, build on that passion, and move forward to a way that they can understand that their community is a part of a larger whole.
Y que requiere de las capacidades de ambos países para poder recuperar su calidad, su cantidad, sus servicios ambientales y los beneficios que provee a las poblaciones locales.
We can achieve more because there's more of us.